And so, in other news, Rishi Sunak has had to change his strategy with the state-backed loans. So obviously, if you're a sort of longer-term listener to the show, you would maybe have listened to the podcast Georgia and I recorded. And so we talked about Sunak's performance during all this. Gave him a lot of credit for the furlough scheme and also the loan scheme that he wanted to implement. But unfortunately, the loan scheme has it looks like it's failed. And so I think George and I agreed about 6 out of 10, but I think he's going to be looking at a 3. So unlucky for you, big man. So if we look here, the Chancellor, originally the loan was meant to be 80% of the loan would be state-backed and 20% would be from the banks. And I think the first year was interest-free, but the banks were like, nah, bro, we ain't doing this. This is too much of a risk. And the fact that he wanted the banks to take some of the risk just didn't make sense. And his argument was, you don't want the taxpayer to take all of the risk. But the fact is, these businesses are struggling for them. So if we look here, 1st of April, this came out, April Fool's Day, which this is no joke. This was over a month ago. A fifth of smaller UK firms are running out of cash. And so this man's still messing around now. So this was April 27th. So this is about, 2 weeks? Yeah, just over 2 weeks ago. And this guy, he's talking about loans, backed 100% by the taxpayer. But the thing is, the loans will only be 25% of turnover with a maximum payment of 50,000. So fair enough, you could say that the government's covering most of the salaries by furloughing the staff, but by only covering 25% of the turnover, that doesn't protect them from things like rent payments, and also any bills that they would have to pay anyways, regardless. And so 25% is not going to be enough, big man. So these companies are going to go bust, and I would be very surprised if any of these companies could actually get access to the loans, because as we covered in a previous video, that a business that works in construction, the owner's struggling to get a loan because the banks won't lend to a construction-based company for whatever reason. And so that's one of the reasons why this original scheme of 80% state-backed and 20% banks from the banks failed. And so we know this is happening. A fifth of the UK smaller business are running out, and for some reason the BBC, when they covered this article talking about up to 50,000 and all this stuff, they never actually mentioned the 25% of turnover. It only covers 25% of turnover. So a transformational goes. This is, I don't know if this is still the analysis from Faisal Islam here. Unlike the existing loan scheme, banks will not retain any of the risk for these loans, which could stretch into the billions or tens of billions depending on how long the crisis lasts. Business leaders welcome the move, with Dame Carolyn Fairbairn, CPI director, general, calling it transformational for smaller firms. Sole traders, micro firms, and entrepreneurs will now have a simple route to fast access to stay afloat without the red tape. Or this are lies, because Sunak has said that the loans are going to be checked because he doesn't want to waste taxpayers' money, which is admirable. But at the same time, if it takes 2 or 3 weeks, you're risking businesses becoming bankrupt. You should have done this much earlier. You can say hindsight is 2020, but banks are frugal, especially in times of hardship. You worked for a bank. He worked for a bank. I can't remember which one it was. I think it was Goldman Sachs. You worked for a bank. You know how frugal banks are in tough times. So this is just silly. And even her point here from the CPI director, talking about how it's transformational, banks will need to continue their work in overdrive to get loans flowing faster. And the chairman of the Federation of Small Businesses, Mike Cherry, said it would give hope to thousands. To date, the existing interruption loan scheme has not been working for smaller firms that make up 99% of the business community, which is crazy. The decision by the Chancellor to listen to our recommendation for 100 backed guarantee on smaller firms alongside the creation of a new fast track system for those applying will give hope to thousands. It's like, A, we don't know how fast track it is because he said it's going to be checked extensively, and B, we don't know how long this stuff's going to take. So this article came out end of April. I still haven't heard any updates about what's going on. So I'll give you credit for the furlough scheme, but the fact is you're only covering 25% of the max 25% of the turnover of the company. So you're covering a quarter of the business's costs, but not all of it. I know it's difficult to tell which businesses are profitable, obviously, because things will change after COVID-19. Obviously, you don't know how much disposable income people are going to have, but at the same time, it's not enough. And realistically, it should be a grant. It should be a grant to businesses, and you should put in fail-safes to make sure that the money's being spent on the business and not, on like renovations for their house or something. But Rishi Sunak, I'm sorry, big man, but like, you've let a lot of small businesses down. You have let a lot of small businesses down initially with your move of the 20% for the banks, and now with your 100% with only covering 25%, realistically you should be covering, if you cover just the rent payments, that would probably do it for most small businesses, because their rent payments are still something that's going to go out. It's just madness out here, and I think a lot of businesses go to bank. So shouts out to you, Sunak. You can give it the big talk. The government will run with your headline and things like that. But like you failed small businesses. But yeah, if you're a small business owner and you're watching this video for whatever reason, comment, tell me what you guys think, and yeah, like, comment, subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.